Hi everybody, I'm Den Haring and welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365, and welcome back to Topwater Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about the Cavitron Buzzbait. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Cavitron and buzzbaits in general. We're going to give you a lot of good information if you want to learn how to fish a buzzbait and be more effective with it. This is a video that will be worth watching. Somewhere back in the 90s, being a topwater fanatic, I got really interested in buzzbaits, and I spent a whole year just fishing them as much as I could and trying to learn as much as I could about them. And there's all these different buzzbaits out there, different styles and different manufacturers, and certainly some are better than others, but there's some general things that you should know about a buzzbait. Some of the components are important, so we're going to talk about a little bit of that, and then we'll talk about this particular one and how I came to be liking this Cavitron. It's my favorite buzzbait. In fact, when I found this buzzbait and how well it fished, I sold a lot of my others. I still have a few other brands, but primarily I use this Cavitron now. So the first thing about the buzzbait, and the most important thing, is the blade and how much that churns up the water. So there's different size buzzbaits with different size blades, and there's different weights. Like, for example, this Cavitron, it comes in 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, and 1 ounce sizes, a bunch of different sizes. The nice thing about the blades on these is that they're made of metal, which I like, and they have holes in them. So why do they have these drill out holes in them? Well, that helps leave a really nice bubble trail behind the bait as you're moving the bait along. And sometimes that bubble trail may help some game fish hone in on your bait. The sound is the key with buzzbaits. The most important thing about a buzzbait is the sound that it makes. And there's a trick that is well known and written about in a lot of the bass magazines and books and videos. But it's something that you should be aware of because it really does, I've found personally that it really does make a difference. And it has to do with this rivet that is here. So this buzzbait is just a piece of wire bend and a lead head with a hook. And there's a rivet that holds this blade in place. And it's free floating between the 90, almost a 90-degree bend here and the end of the rivet. And what some people do is they'll take the buzzbait and they'll hold it out their car window while they're driving their car. And the reason why they do that is they want to get this connection worn down, because it makes a different noise when you wear this the rivet and the wire and the blade down a little bit. And that, Brandy, get away from the camera. My cat is at the camera here, excuse me. All right, we're back. Hopefully the cat will behave. So, but you don't have to hold it out of a car window. There's some other things that you can do. I'm going to get up and I'm going to blow on these two. They're both the exact same size buzzbait blades, but see if you can hear the difference. This will be interesting. Hopefully this will, you'll be able to hear this. So listen to this one. You can hear that metal. Now listen to this one. Notice that squeak. It has a little bit more of a squeal, a higher pitch, almost like a ring to it. The reason why this one sounds different than this one is because on this one with the red blade, I took a pliers and I bent that, I squeezed that rivet down onto the wire. And so that holds the rivet in place. This one, the rivet is free floating along with the blade. See how that rivet free floats along with the blade? This one, because I pinched the rivet down, it doesn't float. It just stays where it is. And so when the blade makes contact with that, and it will more often because it's pushed against it while it's going through the water, it makes a different sound. It has that ringing, squealing, squeaking sound. And that's what you want, because that is an attractor. It may sound something like a little animal, a mouse or something, but whatever it is, that sound makes a difference. And it's not just me saying so. You can look this up on all the Bassmaster magazines. I'm sure it's on every buzzbait video you can find. Some people go so far as to dip that rivet into Clorox for a period of time so that it will oxidize and start to rust, because that helps make that sound as well. And I have found, for me, I don't feel that I need to go that far. I just crimp it onto that wire piece there, and the sound that I get is fine, and it works well. So that's the first thing, the blade and what you do with that rivet. Now, if I'm fishing a buzzbait and it has a skirt like this, where I can get away with it, I like to use a trailer hook. And when you use a trailer hook, this is true for spinnerbaits too, always make sure it's free swinging. You put the trailer hook on first, and then you put a piece of plastic to hold it in place so it don't fall off. I don't recommend putting the plastic over the hook and then putting it on here, because you can end up having a situation where it's coming through the water like this and it's off balance and it just doesn't work. So it's better to just have a plastic behind the hook. That way the trailer hook is free floating, and you'll find that is just a much better setup. Now, these blade baits that I have here, I don't have a skirt on them right now, and that's because in recent times, a lot of the pros are fishing these buzzbaits differently. Instead of having a skirt, they just pull the skirt off and they'll put a toad on there, like a horny toad. And so all you do is you thread the toad on, trying to keep it as straight as possible. So now you've got a situation where you've got a toad on the back of this thing. So what is the advantages of that? Well, there's a couple. One is this toad is bulky plastic. So now, you know, the whole idea of the buzzbait, if you throw the buzzbait out there and don't do anything, when it lands in the water, it'll sink. But you need this thing up on the surface. You need this thing churning the water. So having a bulky frog or toad on the back will allow this thing to rise up much quicker, and it won't sink nearly as fast. It's just, it'll plane on top of the water. So now it allows you to fish the bait, even though the bait has weight to it. With this, you can throw it a long way, but it allows you to fish that bait much slower if you want to. You can still fish it fast, but now you can go much slower and still keep that blade on the surface. And you have the tails of the buzzbait kicking slightly underwater, but also making a disturbance, something for the fish to hone in on and grab. And so most everybody's fishing buzzbaits this way these days. I suspect they may get conditioned to that eventually, but to me it does seem like a better way to fish the buzzbait right now overall, in most conditions anyway, than using a skirt. And buzzbait, you'd be surprised how you could fish this in heavy cover, thick milfoil, lily pads, around brush. It comes through this stuff quite well as long as it's balanced right. You want to have this thing balanced in such a way where it comes back as straight to you as you can get it to do. Sometimes you need to bend this wire frame a little bit, because sometimes it'll go off on an angle. That's not always so bad. If it does go off on an angle, you might want a few that do that. And the reason for that is if you're fishing near docks, you can throw this out and actually reel it, and it'll go under the dock. So sometimes having it go off on an angle is a good thing, because you can get to where the fish are a little bit easier, like going under a dock. So consider that. The other thing that I forgot to mention that I do with these, and you don't have to do this, but this is something that I like to do, and I do this with a lot of my spinnerbaits too. I put a heat shrink tubing right here on the bend. This is where you would tie your bait. And I put heat shrink tubing here, and the reason why I do that is it allows me to use a snap if I want to. So if I'm fishing kind of open water, I can put a snap on here, and it allows me to change baits that much quicker and easier. And so that's why I put that heat shrink tubing on there. I also do that with my spinnerbaits. And I think I have a video, in fact I do have a video that describes how I do that. I'll leave it in the link here in case you'd like to see it. So back to the story about when I was fishing this back in the 90s and throwing all these different buzzbaits. I went to a seminar, and I'm trying to remember who it was that taught the seminar, but he started talking about this Lee Bailey buzzbait, this Cavitron Buzzbait, and how he thought it was better than the other buzzbaits he fished. So I bought a few, and I thought I'd try it. And I agreed with him. It fished better than the other buzzbaits I have. and I really like it. I'm not saying there's not a better buzzbait out there. There might be, but this one is the one I have confidence in. The head is quite flat, and so it planes very nicely on the surface. It's got these nice big blades. They got the holes in the blades, makes that bubble trail. The thing that makes a buzzbait good is your ability to fish it on the surface very slowly if you want to. That slow speed sometimes is key. You could always fish them fast, but it helps to be able to fish them very, very slow. And so that's one of the big advantages of fishing the Cavitron Buzzbait. And recently, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I found these somewhere online, and I bought a bunch of them. And I see they have Roland Martin's face on there. I guess he had him on his TV show. But Lee Bailey Jr. was recognized as the designer of this particular buzzbait. And it is a very good fish catcher. If you've never fished buzzbaits before and you want to give them a try, I'd recommend this one. I'd recommend different sizes, different size blades for different conditions. The more disturbance or chop that you have in the water, the bigger the blade you would want. If you have very calm, clear water conditions, you might want to use one with a smaller blade, something that doesn't make quite as much of a fuss. But again, that depends on conditions, and you just have to experiment with it to see what's working best on the day that you're out there. Well, that's the Lee Bailey Jr. Cavitron Buzzbait. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me the thumbs up, hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. That way you'll get a notification when a new video is coming or is available. We're all about the art and science of fishing here on Fish Den 365. And as always, may God bless your fishing endeavors.